Jumped up, holy old fuck. Look at the size of these two dudes. Jean-Pierre Fux and Markus Ruhl, two of the biggest muscle men of all time. In fact, if you were to hack off all that muscle, all that meat, throw it on a big scale, I think these two dudes may have more muscle than just about anyone. They're tall and they're thick. That's a tough combination to defeat. So today we're going to have a picture comparison with these two dudes. Before we do, let's have a look at their competitive history. And as you can see, Jean-Pierre Fux only had half the amount of years competing as Markus Ruhl. Well, maybe a little over half, but having said that, Markus Ruhl's career much longer, spanned a much longer distance than Jean-Pierre Fux. But look at 1996 for Jean-Pierre. A little bit blurry, hard to see these events, but you can see he competed 10 times? Wow! Gotta be a record. Has to be a record. But this is a physique comparison and just cartoonish. These two dudes. You can see right out of the chute. Jean-Pierre Fux, he is going to have an edge in the lower half. Look at those great big quads. Looks like a great big fish. Like a salmon or something, or I don't know, a roughy? Maybe an orange roughy, hard to say, but round delts, chest muscles. These two dudes, they are cut from the same mold. Now, I know Markus is German. I don't think Fux. I think he's Swedish. He's from Sweden, I think. Isn't he? Swedish? Oh, no. He's Swiss. He's from Switzerland. That's where they get the knife. One's where they get the chocolate, and one's where they get a knife. Swiss Army knife. Something of that nature. I apologize. Here is the first pose. The first double bicep pose. The front double bicep. Earlier on in both of these dudes' careers, I guess you could say, they're both in good condition. Midsection is a little wider for Ruhl. But Jean Bidon, as we'll see from the side, he might have a little bit more protrusion from that midsection. In both cases, neither one of them, Sean Ray or Lee Priest, things of that nature. Now the arms, Ruhl will have an advantage. In the lags, the Jean Bidon, I'm sure he will have an edge, right? Well, here is just 1 year after, or 2 years, for Jean Bidon, Pierre Fux, 1998. And something happened to his midsection. From 96 to 98, kind of dropped the ball. And I'm sure somebody will mention Jean Bidon. He was the guy in that picture with the weight crushing his poor quads. His career kind of already was down by that point. Wasn't over, but it was, I think he was past his prime. And in Markus Ruhl, wow. This is 2009 Olympia. Not a very good performance for Markus, but still he had a respectable level of condition, and both of the guys obviously just full of muscle meat, raw meat, not just the processed kind. I'm sorry. Just trying to be funny. Little bit of a failure here. Here is the front lat spread. Did I make up for it with the failure here? You don't think that's funny? Well, I do. Look at the lats on these guys. Like I said, size-wise, muscle mass-wise, these guys are just loaded. Chest, width, two of the widest bodybuilders. I think Jean Bidon, he might be the widest ever. The widest bodybuilder ever of all times. He has one of those belly buttons. Is that a hernia? Now, you may not be familiar with the common types of hernias that you can get, so just settle down and let me clue you in. There's incomplete, epigastric, bladder, strangulated, lumbar hernia, rictus hernia, obstructed, inguinal, and direct. And I'm not sure what type that one is. But anyway, he is living with a hernia. I would suggest Jean Bidon, he has the size and width, but Markus, a little more aesthetically pleasing, I guess. If you're going to actually judge this one and not try to sing foolish hernia songs. Here is the side chest, and you'll notice I picked an old picture of Ruhl, Markus Ruhl, Jean-Pierre Fux, just in case anybody was waiting for me to say both of their names funny. I picked this version because he's hitting the pose at the exact same posture as the Swiss, the big Switzerland man, this great big giant Jean-Pierre Fux. And I have to say, the breast muscles, the chest muscles, the pectoral region, I mean, Markus Ruhl owns that. Look at the size. Look at the far pec. Could you imagine for 1 second walking around with that great big man's chest? I'd go to the store right now. It's cold out, but I wouldn't wear a shirt. Absolutely, I wouldn't wear a shirt. Here's the side tricep. There's that. I'm terrible. I'm awful. I should respect these bodybuilders a little bit more. But Jean-Bidon's stomach, it looks like somebody going, know what I'm saying? Looks a little bit like that. Markus Ruhl, he's no Pablo Picasso either, or whatever you would say. I mean, he's no statuesque figurine in the side tricep either. Both of these guys perhaps had a little bit too much lunch to carb up with. But in both cases, look at the backs. Look at these guys. They weren't like great big fluffs. They weren't like your traditional mass monsters from the 90s. And I will throw a couple of names out there. Your Paul Delettes and even your Nassers. They're kind of weaked back. But these two dudes, they turned around and, yeah, their backs matched their fronts. Size-wise. Muscle thickness. Jean-Bidon, look at how thick his lower lats are. Unreal. Taking nothing away from that nice drawn-out Christmas tree lat insertions for Markus Ruhl, hamstrings, and do not forget the massive calves on Ruhl. So I would suggest each gentleman has something over the other guy. Thick lat insertions, Jean-Bidon, traps, thickness, Jean-Bidon. But look at the nice drawn-out lines on Markus Ruhl. Hamstrings are incredible too, and the calves as well. Now, as far as condition is concerned, it is hard to tell using these two pictures. Now, here's the rear double, and we will take a look at a different rear double, but this one here shows the condition of these two fellers. I was going to say dudes, but I don't want to overuse that phrase. Hamstrings, very peeled for both guys. I mean separated, not so much the condition, popcornery, fart, dryish. But you can clearly see some thicker lat insertions for Jean-Pierre. And is it hard, grainy condition for Markus Ruhl that we see? Or is it just perfect, drawn-out lines, like I said? Perfect. That's just perfect. Now, for the reason to see silhouettes and things of that nature, and to explain the legend of Markus Ruhl, here is a screenshot, I believe, for both. Definitely a screenshot for Markus. It's the 2002, I think, the Night of Champions, right? Yeah, see? And the legend has it he was just peeled. And you can see that Christmas tree area using the screenshot. It does look hard grainy, but we just seen that other picture that kind of disproves the popcorn fart dry. Markus Ruhl, 2002. He was good. Now, this is some sort of Grand Prix, I believe, for Jean-Pierre Fux, and he was peeled. You can see some striations in his glutes and everything. So in both cases, Jean-Pierre Fux, Markus Ruhl, incredible from behind. Ultimately, both in their primes, both DeLoreans got their best versions. Jean-Pierre would probably win the back shots, guys, due to the condition. But then again, Markus would probably win the front because of the hernia, living with the hernia. Here's the abs and thigh. 97 for Jean-Pierre, I believe. Good version there in 1997. And I believe this is 2003. Arnold's Classics. Pancho, This place is too hot for a pickup. Or no, it was Billy, not Pancho. Never mind. It's Pancho, fall into position and situation, get caught up on the hook. But look at the midsections. Which one's better? Jean-Pierre, he has that little wee Bob Ciccarello type ab setup. What's his name there? The new fella. Great big arms. Crizo. He has the same little set in there abs. It's, I don't know, maybe not the best. But then again, Markus Ruhl has abs a little bit too big. Blockade abs, if you will. So it is kind of a toss-up, somewhat. And that makes it a difficult choice, guys. Who was winning from the side? I guess that's, you're going to have to decide. And I think Ruhl was, maybe. And here's the most muscular, another one for Ruhl. Good finish on Jean-Pierre Fux. There was a lot of attention towards detail back then. They were statuesque still when Dorian Yates was around, even though, you know, his arm. Having said that, there was a lot of polish, abs, things of that nature. And that's probably why Jean-Pierre Fux never did get a very good placing at the Olympias. Things of that nature. And Markus Ruhl, ditto with him. He never really excelled at an Olympia level. What did he get, like top 6 one year or something, I believe? So Markus Ruhl, I guess he would win, in my opinion. He's a little bit better. But guys, if that conditioning, that Grand Prix from Jean-Pierre, rather, I think he would maybe get an edge, get a victory. Of course, it's definitely always hard to say when you're using pictures, guys. You're not going to be able to tell for sure. It is a somewhat of a hypothesis, an educated guess. So Markus Ruhl, yeah, a little bit better than Jean-Pierre Fux. But don't kid yourself. Jean-Pierre, his back was some of the finest back developments that you're ever going to see in the history. Mark down the top 20. We'll go as deep as 20. And Jean-Pierre would be mentioned. He'd be mentioned. Of course, there's a few guys like that never won an Olympia, never even probably even came close. Orville Burke, another guy. Orville Burke and Jean-Pierre Fux, two of the biggest, thickest lats, I guess. Taking nothing away from Markus Ruhl, I mean, he had no weak back either. So, in conclusion, to apologize for that terrible hernia song that I sang earlier. I guess I sang it, I kind of talked it. Here is, unbelievably, every single Mr. Olympia winner from beginning to end. So, no better way to end a video than just sit back and reflect on all these great champions, and every single time they won, we'll show a little picture. If you won 3 titles, we'll show you 3 times. If you won 8 titles, how many? 8, of course. So what a rich history, and what a fine game / sport / pageant this Mr. Olympia, this bodybuilding is. So thank you, Joe Weider, for all of these great champions. And thank you for subscribing to the channel. And if you have not already, go ahead and brush against that little subscribe button, and you too will be a member of the subscriber group, or, you know, what have you. Have a nice one, guys.